Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for our virtual Meet the Expert session. My name is Morna, and I'm part of the My World of Work Live team with Skills Development Scotland. My World of Work Live is all about helping you to understand future careers and the skills that they might need. Now, in today's session, we're going to cover an overview of the life and chemical sciences sector and have a look at some of the opportunities within that sector. And we'll be speaking to Dr. Catherine Adam today from the Cancer Research UK Edinburgh Centre. You'll also have the opportunity to ask Catherine any questions about her career journey and the sector itself. I'd like to encourage you to get involved as much as possible throughout the session today, so please use the question and answer box to the right of your screen, and we'll try and answer as many of your questions as possible during the session today. I'd also like to let you know that today's session is being recorded, and that's so that young people who couldn't make it can still access the resources. It will be available for everybody to watch on the My World of Work YouTube channel, and that means you can go back and rewatch everything that we've been speaking about today. Please don't worry, anything that you ask can be anonymous if you prefer. You just select that option. So before we have a chat with Catherine, we'll have a look at some of the labour market information for the life and chemical sciences sector. So currently there are around 18,400 people working in the life sciences industry, and as of 2020 there were around 11,600 people working in chemical sciences, and that can cover a huge wide variety of different roles. We have around 240 chemical science companies here in Scotland. And for the year 2020, the average salary for jobs within the life and chemical sciences sector was around £30,000. The life and chemical sciences sector also adds an estimated £4.798 million to the Scottish economy, and that was an increase last year of 22% from 2010. So it's a really fast evolving and really constantly developing sector to become part of. What does the future hold? Well, there could be up to nearly 30,000 new job openings within the life and chemical sciences industry up to the year 2029. And that again will be across a wide variety of roles such as science, engineering, production technicians. And there will be an estimated 11% future growth in these industries to £5.345 million by 2030. So we have Dr. Catherine Adam joining us today. She is from the Cancer Research Centre in Edinburgh. So basically what Cancer Research UK does is that it brings together cancer scientists and clinicians from across the University of Edinburgh so they can deliver outstanding research and improving patient care. Catherine is a postdoctoral research fellow and a chemist who's started life out as a chemist down in Manchester and Bristol, and has now got her dream job working in medical research at the University of Edinburgh. So I'll let Catherine introduce herself and give you far more detail than I can there, and sort of give you an idea into how they got there. So Catherine, thank you so much for joining us today. If you're able to sort of give us a wee overview of who you are and how you got to where you are. Thanks very much.
Hello everyone, good morning. Yeah, I'm Kath. I work at the Cancer Research UK Edinburgh Centre, but I'm actually employed by the University of Edinburgh. So I'm a postdoctoral scientist working at a university, funded by Cancer Research UK, among other things. So I'm a chemist, so my day-to-day life, my job is to try and make new cancer drugs, specifically ones that are kinder and safer, and then hopefully more effective treatments for cancer. And so because of that, I spend most of my time working in the lab. I'm wearing my white coat, doing chemical reactions for most of the day. I also do things like quite a lot of data analysis and testing my new drugs on cancer cells straight away to see whether they work or not. So in terms of how I got here, I'm from England, and I grew up and did my A-levels there, but I wasn't actually sure at that age what I wanted to do. So I probably took a bit of an indirect route. I did a bit of art. I did a foundation year in art, and then I had a year off. And during that year, I kind of realised that I wanted to do something a bit more practical and kind of maybe a bit more useful for society. And I decided to do chemistry because I had really loved it during my A-levels. So then I did a degree in chemistry at Edinburgh University and a year in industry with that at AstraZeneca. And I suppose at that point, maybe I learned a bit more about the pharmaceutical industry and as a chemist, what you can do to make new drugs. And because of that, I stayed on and I did a PhD in Edinburgh in chemistry. And then I had my first job at Manchester University doing a similar type of thing to I do now, so postdoctoral scientific research. And we moved to Bristol and I did the same job there in Bristol for a little while. And then I worked in a little small company for a few months, also doing the same thing, developing chemistry and doing chemical reactions in the lab. And then, yeah, this is probably my dream job, working in cancer research and doing chemical reactions and trying to make new drugs. Yeah.
Wonderful. You've had such a varied sort of career so far, Catherine. That's wonderful to hear. So thank you for that overview. We've already got some questions coming in, which is fantastic. So the young people listening out there, please feel free to keep putting those questions in. So we'll just dive right in, Catherine. So what kind of, and you sort of touched upon it, but like they're asking, what tasks do you day to day? Like, what's your average day like?
Yeah, so probably about 60 to 70% of my time I am in the lab, wearing my lab coat, doing chemical reactions. So I have to try and make a lot of new drugs. And in terms of medical research, it's actually quite difficult. So we need to make a lot of new drugs to test them all. So I'll spend a lot of time in my white coat, my chemistry lab, making them, checking that I've made them correctly, seeing how pure and clean they are, a lot of time purifying them, and then quite a lot of time testing them. So in this job, I hadn't done biology before, really, that much. So I've learned quite a lot in this job of how to test my drugs on cancer cells as well. So I do biology with my microscope, looking at cells under the microscope and testing my new drugs in cell culture. And apart from that, there's quite a lot of sort of sitting at a desk. I need to write up all my reports and keep really good records of what I've done, so I can done it before, and so other people can do it in the future. So there's a lot of that. There's quite a lot of data analysis. So whenever I test my drugs, I generate a lot of numbers. So I need to do a lot of analysis on the data. So working with a lot of spreadsheets and some sort of specialized software to see how effective they're going. There's also things like presentations to my group and to the institute, and then going to conferences sometimes and doing talks or presenting a poster at a conference. Yeah, probably split that way.
Quite a few different sort of plates spinning in the air there. So thank you for that overview. It's great. What inspired you to get into this career? Someone's asking. You kind of touched on it before with like you liked chemistry, but was there something that sort of inspired you?
Yeah, so to do chemistry, I was quite inspired in my year in industry, my year between deciding to do chemistry and leaving the art world, as it were. I went to Africa for a bit and we did a tour of some mines. This is quite a strange story, but there were all these piles of waste, like silicon waste, and just sort of sat around, and it was just so depressing that there was no use for all these like leftover side products and chemicals. And I think that's what inspired me to do chemistry. I kind of wanted to find a use for all this waste, and I know that's not what I'm doing now, but that's what inspired me to do a chemical degree. Actually, I just sort of saw that the world was just so imperfect and that there was a lot of things to do there, and I thought it would be useful.
Wow, that's sort of inspired me. That's really amazing. Gosh, what a fantastic opportunity to sort of try and see an issue and try and think how to sort of solve it better. That's fantastic. Gosh, you've got some really good questions coming through. What's the best thing about your job? Someone's asking.
Oh, the best thing, the thing that really drives me and gets me excited is yeah, just the new things. Every day I kind of come into the lab and I'm waiting to find out if something has worked, because that little buzz of excitement and that feeling, if a new drug that I've made has actually worked really well, I'm finding out this information and it's so exciting and I can't wait to share it with everyone. That, yeah, what really drives me forward, like, has it worked? Have I done something? We spend a lot of time sort of planning and thinking about stuff, and a lot of time, to be honest, a lot of time things don't work. So when it does work quite well, that's definitely the most exciting part. It's also really rewarding working in cancer research. We actually work on the site of the hospital, and the treatment centre is right next to us. So we do see patients and talk to patients. And yeah, that's obviously quite inspiring.
That's amazing. So being able to sort of see your work in effect and like having a benefit, that's a wonderful thing to be able to be part of. If you were doing an experiment, like how, if you're sort of developing a new drug, how long does it take for you to know that it's worked, or when it's in the development process?
Yeah, so in terms of pharmaceutical industry and drug development, a long time. I think on average for a pharmaceutical company, say from concept to getting into a patient and being licensed is about 10 years. It's a really long time. In terms of my job to see whether something has worked, I mean, I could make a new compound today and then I'd know in a few days whether it's really active in cancer cells. But that is quite far removed from whether it's a suitable drug. But that's maybe quite interesting, like the whole industry around like testing it and seeing if it's going to be effective in patients. Yeah, so my research group recently has had a really big success. So they developed a new drug and have licensed it to a company in America that are going to go and test it on patients. And from making that drug to testing it in patients, that's about 6 years. Okay. So it could be, yeah, it definitely in your lifetime you could see an effect. Gosh. But it is a long time from design to patient, but that's because we have so many like rigorous safety tests to do.
Of course. So like the whole process in that sense, but that's quite amazing to think that you could make something today and then in a few days you could see like under a microscope that it's it's starting to have an effect.
Totally, yeah. You could test it to see if it's really potent and really good at killing cancer cells within a few days. Yeah.
Wow.
Gosh. And then you can go ahead and try and find out how it's working, what it's doing. Yeah, there's a lot to learn.
So what would it look like underneath the microscope to see that it's killed a cancer cell? Like what does that look like?
That's just it. The cells are dead and they're no longer there. We also have a lot of machinery that will take lots and lots of different measurements. Sometimes we have, do you know, in the movies, and people are always holding up little tubes of fluorescent dye. We have that. So we have a lot of fluorescent probes. We feed them to the cells, and if the cells are dead, then they don't turn it into this fluorescent compound. So there's a lot of looking at fluorescent things in a microscope.
So lots of, is that a light? Is that not a light?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe the movies are a bit misleading on how quickly you can develop a new fluorescent assay like that, but we do use a lot of these like green glowing things to see if it's working.
Well, that sounds cool anyway, so that's really good. So fantastic. So that's kind of a nice sort of introduction about the sort of exciting things about your job. But I suppose a counterpoint to that, somebody's asking, is what are the challenging aspects of your job then?
Yeah, I think I touched on it before. So a lot of the time things aren't working. I think especially for PhD students, it's maybe even a bit harder because their PhD sort of, they need to get results to graduate. And working in the academic world compared to industry, you're expected to publish your work, and you can't necessarily publish it in a very good place if it hasn't worked particularly well. So it's quite hard, dealing with failure But then quite often there's lessons to be learned. I mean, if something doesn't work, then you have to figure out why, and then that's a new challenge. Maybe you can figure out why, you can redesign your experiment to see, is that interesting in itself? So you kind of can spin it, but if you had a long run of things not working very well for, say, a few months, I think that can be quite quite challenging. What we normally do is we work on like 2 or 3 different projects at the same time. So if one thing is not working, you can sort of park it, work on something else, and then your mind can work on the problem in the background until you've got a new idea.
Well, that's good. Actually, someone's just sort of, as you've been speaking about that, you've kind of touched on it. They're sort of asking if it's really hard sometimes to get something that works. Like, how do you keep motivated to keep going to sort of eventually get, you know, the final product that works?
Yeah, well, that's it. Like, normally we don't necessarily we wouldn't like draw on paper, this is the new one single drug that's going to be amazing blockbuster. It's more like we sort of start out information gathering. So we'll make like 30 or 40 different things and we'll test them all at the same time, and then we'll see what works. And I think this is where all this like data analysis comes in as well, because nowadays we can gather so much more data simultaneously at the same time. And then we can drill down into that one works, let's take that one and we'll stick bits on. Yeah, so we sort of mitigate if this doesn't work, then we're all failed by just doing lots of things at the same time. my old boss always used to say the best way to have a good idea is to have lots of ideas, and then
that's good advice.
One of them will lead you somewhere.
Yeah, and I suppose like it's not that it's failed, you've just found multiple ways that didn't work for something else, but it's leading you to leading you to the final eventual thing. So always turning it into a positive spin. So that's really good.
Also things like going to lots of conferences, reading a lot of papers, going to all your presentations that your colleagues are doing. You're always going to find inspiration for new things to do if you like engage with the rest of the community.
Absolutely. And do you know what, see, from just what you're speaking about here, we've kind of I'm kind of getting an idea of the amount of different skills and abilities that you might need to have. So what are the really important skills that you think are necessary for this kind of work that you do in the sector itself?
Yeah, so I think you do need a passion for science, chemistry. I mean, yeah, there's lots of different science and scientists involved in my building, so it's obviously not just chemists. So yeah, I think you need that little spark of just, I want to do a new experiment, I want to learn this. Yes, you need to be a safe pair of hands, you need to be quite practically minded. We do a lot of planning, so I've sort of mentioned we've got a lot of things happening at the same time. For biology and for chemistry, you'll have set experiments you need to do at set times, so you need to plan and work around that, because say I might put a reaction on in the morning and then I've got 5 or 6 hours of just leaving that to heat, so then I need to think about what I'm going to do in that time and when I need to be back. So yeah, quite a lot of planning and organising is useful. There's quite a lot of data analysis and sort of problem solving, making sure you've looked through all the numbers and seeing they're working at the same time. So yeah, that's definitely a useful skill to have. I work as part of a team. We've got a small team of chemists and a couple of biologists, so there's maybe 10 of us. So we need to work quite well with the rest of my team and communicate well. There's quite a lot of writing. So you don't have to have nice flowery language. It's not like the law. It's not all beautifully written and very lyrical. It's more the facts. You want it to be clear. I mean, the person that's reading it might not have English as their first language, so it needs to be very, clear and easy to understand for everyone. So you need to have, the ability to communicate clearly on paper. Mm-hmm. I'd say those are the main skills: communication, planning, analysis.
Team working, collaboration, resilience by the sounds of it as well, and determination and perseverance, I would say. This is fantastic. So lots and lots of different things there, which I'm sure a lot of our young people already have these kind of skills from maybe certain aspects of their lives. So fantastic. Oh, the questions. There's so many coming in. Right. So someone's asking, for this kind of role, maybe for this sector, like, would you have to go to university, or are there other routes in?
Yeah, so for this particular role, you would, but for the sector, no, definitely not necessarily. So in my building, we're not just chemists and biologists. You know, we have building managers, we have lab managers, we have a graphic designer, we have lawyers, we have artificial intelligence. I mean, we have a wide variety of people working in cancer research. You don't need to be, you know, a PhD to work in cancer research. Some of the technicians in the building, I think, would maybe have A levels or possibly a degree, or sorry, advanced hires. Yeah, so probably like stay on school for a little bit till you're 18, and then you could get the sort of like lab, sort of a basic lab job, definitely, and work your way up through a company. I think there might be some sort of modern apprenticeships that Mona will probably know a little bit more about.
Yes, there are. Absolutely. So that's actually really good to know, and exactly what you're saying there. Like when people sort of hear cancer research, they might think, "Oh, right, I need to be a scientist." But that's brilliant that you've obviously indicated that there's maybe a legal aspect, a financial aspect, business management, this kind of thing. So there's all different things. And I suppose just to sort of touch upon there, the modern apprenticeships and apprenticeship opportunities that you have, like there's scientific technologies that young people could do. So that sort of gives them a good grounding in STEM. There's a modern apprenticeship in life science and related industries. So if you're interested in things like Catherine's doing, to sort of get involved in healthcare and research, contributing to our continuing advancement in medical research, and actually also just from what Catherine's been speaking about, the amount of sort of data analysis, there's a modern apprenticeship in data analytics, which, you know, if you're quite interested in math, maybe good at problem solving, that's probably a really good apprenticeship for you to have a look at as well. So lots of good things there. Right. Okay. So our young people are getting really interested in this kind of thing. What sort of subjects did you do at school? And maybe are there any that you would specifically recommend for life and chemical sciences?
Yeah, so guess at school I did quite a lot of science. I did maths, chemistry, biology, but then I also did art. I think for chemistry and biology, there is this aspect of creativity that you need. I think for me it was quite helpful. If you're having to redesign your problem, you need to be able to think multiple different ways. I also make lots of posters and stuff actually, and make graphical abstracts and draw pictures. That was actually quite useful. I don't think it's a prerequisite. So yeah, in terms of school, I think most universities, if you wanted to do a degree in chemistry, you'd need to have chemistry, but I'd also say maths is pretty. I think they normally ask for maths, chemistry, and then one other science maybe. So biology or physics. There's quite a lot of physicists in our building as well. Or yeah, computer science, data science would also be quite useful.
Yeah, definitely. Really good. Okay, excellent. That's good to know. So we do have actually quite an interesting question here. You're saying that you worked for a small company. So are there any big differences, or like what are the differences between working for a company like that and then like going into like the non-business sector side?
Yeah, so in terms of day-to-day basis, actually really similar. I did really enjoy both. Unfortunately, the small company was so small, they couldn't keep me on for a long period of time. They only had a few months of work for me at the time. I think the main difference on paper is that in a company, you're doing things and you're keeping it all quite private. And at a university, you're publishing it as soon as you can and spreading the word. That's the main difference. But in terms of qualifications as well, I mean, most people working in companies could either have worked maybe directly after their degree, or a lot of them also had PhDs. But you can sort of work your way up. I think companies are a lot more amenable to, you could start off after your degree and they'll keep you on the same track level as the PhD people. You're just a few years behind and you kind of do your PhD research while you're there, basically. But yeah, no, in terms of what you're trying to achieve, everyone is trying to achieve the same thing. You're all trying to make the world better for cancer patients, if it's a cancer focused project, or yeah, I think
That's good. I
Yeah,
mean,
they're
it's
very
just it's a
similar
common,
environments to work in, very science focused. And
yeah, it's a common goal, but maybe sort of going different pathways to that common goal. That you're still trying to reach the same place, but you're just maybe going pathways. So wonderful. So someone's asking, it was quite a good question, I suppose. You were talking about all the different experiments and things that you have to do. You maybe have to set them up in the morning and go back. But they're asking, do you find yourself going to the lab at really odd times to sort of see these things, or do you have to work weekends, that kind of thing?
I'd say very occasionally, sometimes, yeah. You can probably plan your way around it, and you definitely don't have to. It's sort of up to you as to what you're doing. I mean, in a way, that's quite good because you can work very flexibly and sort of choose your hours. I think biology is probably a bit more of that, like awkward hours, especially if you were looking after animals studies or something that was very like long time. Yeah, they definitely need to be a bit more time conscious, but I think chemists, you can work around it a little bit better. But yeah, sometimes there's things you'll need to do, like treat something for 12 hours, say, it's quite awkward. But yeah, you can go away, go home and come back. But definitely not often, I'd say.
So it's
Twice a
quite a
year.
good like 9 to 5 sort of role then, kind of thing. Good. So don't worry, folks. You don't have to be getting up at odd times, and unless you've not planned ahead. And so this is actually quite a good question. What's the most unusual thing or project that you've been involved in your job?
Unusual. My last job was a bit crazy. We were trying to make small peptides that would kind of compute information and transfer it in and out of cells. It was very kind of blue sky, crazy sci-fi project. Communication of information with small synthetic molecules. It was quite crazy. Yeah, I'd say that was quite an interesting one.
Definitely.
Maybe in terms of day-to-day life, we do have some accidents being a chemical lab. I've been sort of next to people that have started a couple of fires, things like that. It's definitely not boring, I wouldn't say.
Not working around chemicals, you can just imagine your face. You just like in a microscope and be like, I smell something. Oh.
Yeah, the biologists, oh my gosh, because we're in a building full of biologists, they're used to just everything is in water, nothing explodes and nothing smells. And then they come to our lab and they're like, why is it so noisy? Why is it so smelly? Like, why is that on fire? What's happening? They really don't trust us.
They're just like, we work in a non-sensory sort of thing with like noises and smells, and then you must stress them out when they come to your side. So
Yeah.
that's so funny. Okay, so I think you kind of sort of spoke about this at the beginning when you were saying about, this career path that you've taken. Are there quite a lot of development opportunities for you, Catherine, as you're going through your career and things that you've done?
Yeah, I think definitely. And maybe more working at the university, they're so open to letting you just learn other stuff and try other stuff. I mean, definitely don't be put off by any job if there's a list of skills and that they say you're essential and you maybe don't have all of them. Like for this job, for instance, it said that you needed to know how to do the biology, but if you just phone them or email them and ask them like, I don't necessarily know, but I really, really want to learn, and you show a lot of excitement about it, I would say always ask and apply. But yeah, no, especially working in an institute with all these different people, if I wanted, I'm sure I could go and learn more data analysis, or I could like learn how to use all these bits of equipment that I've never used. Yeah, definitely there's lots of new things to learn. In terms of kind of career progression, it actually is quite tricky from where I am. I need to, the next step is a big step up. It's sort of a group leader, lecturer at a university. So I think for most people in my position, it's either do this for sort of 5 to 10 years and then maybe move on to industry, or become like a big boss and a lecturer.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good advice, and good to know that it's not with things that say are essential. Sometimes there's ways around it, and that's excellent advice for our young people as well, as they're thinking, when they start to apply for jobs, just always ask. I suppose if you don't ask, you don't get. So that's really good to know. What I found quite interesting, Catherine, about what you were saying was, you've got so many different sort of facets, and there's biologists, and there's physics, and things that are part of the lab. Do you find that maybe as things are progressing, that there's a lot more machine learning that's coming into the role, maybe a lot more AI that's maybe helping in medical research and things like that as well?
Yeah, we have a really big new team of bioinformaticians. Yeah, chemistry I think is a bit further behind. It's a bit slow to take it. But the biologists, especially because the types of things that they're thinking about are so complicated, they need this huge amount of data processing. Yeah, so there's a lot of really super interesting kind of machine learning and artificial intelligence models that they're doing. There is such a thing as computational chemistry, which is quite it's quite a big field. So that it is exactly what it sounds. They're using a computer to predict chemical properties. So that is quite interesting as well. But it's not necessarily like big data machine learning, but it is a computational field.
Wow, that's incredible. Actually, we're going to be doing another session with one of the directors one of the lecturers from the School of Informatics at the University of Edinburgh. So I was just like, oh, I wonder if Catherine works with them already. So that's in a few weeks. So computational chemistry. Now, this kind of makes me go, oh, because chemistry, I think, was a little bit scary for me at school. So the fact that you've put computers with that, what if a young person was out there thinking, oh, that's two subjects that I'm really interested in? What sort of any more information that you could give them about that?
Yeah, so it would be the exact same path that I did. If you did a degree in chemistry, we did courses on computational chemistry, and at that point in time, you can zone in to just what you prefer. It's really in your later years at university, you think, well, I really like that one, and you can mix and match, say, 2 or 3 specialist subjects, and just really hone in.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I suppose that's good advice as well for our young people when we say about, having digital and IT tech and even coding languages at this stage is going to sort of set them up for a lot of opportunities in the future. So wonderful. So you were speaking about the people in your lab. So it sounds like it's a really good team, very collaborative. Is it always the same people that you work with, or do you get the opportunity to travel and meet new people in your role?
Yeah, I'm quite lucky. My supervisor is from Spain, and we have a lot of collaborations with a few different research universities and companies in Spain and in Berlin as well. So my former lab mate has moved to Berlin and set up her own research group, and we're all going to start a project together. So there's lots and lots of scope for working with people all over the world. Yeah, there's lots of collaboration going on. Even just in the building across the university. So our hospital site, we quite often work with people in the School of Chemistry as well, and at the other hospital site. So we work with lots of different people. Every project's a new thing, because you'll always be like, oh, I really want to do this, but I don't have this skill. And then you sort of look through the university directory and say, this person does, and then you can just email them and ask and see if they want to help you. Yeah, you need to be, I think definitely you need to be quite happy to approach people and ask for help.
Yes, yeah, I think that's it. Never being afraid to ask for help, I suppose, is a good attribute and skill to have as well. Like if you're like, not sure if I could do that, but willing to expand my network and meet new people that could help. So that's wonderful. Good advice there. So did COVID have an impact on obviously the role that you've been doing over the past 18 months or so? How did that affect your sort of research as well?
Yeah, so it really did. So during the first lockdown was it March? The building was actually closed down to everyone, and sort of being a medical institute, we were very cautious on reopening, but actually a lot of sort of good things as well. They acquired lots of equipment in our building and they were part of the PCR testing program really, really early on. They were doing public testing. And they've set up their own university-wide saliva-based PCR test. So when we go to work now, we just deliver a PCR sample and they test it. But the building, yeah, it was very slow to open. So I think we didn't open until August, and then it was we all had to book in lab shifts up until just about a month ago. We were only now allowed free access back to the building. In the second lockdown, we did actually remain open because kind of medical research was considered essential to the benefit of society in the future. So we were kind of a third level essential service, but it was very, very quiet. We had to sort of book in everything, and you were sort of in the lab with one other person at a time to try and break that chain of contact.
Gosh, it sounds, obviously it's such an important, medical research, especially for cancer research, and to have that sort of impacted must have been very difficult. So it's good to know that it's getting back to normal and that you've managed to get to do it. So very good. Well, this is quite an interesting one. Someone's asking, how many years did it take for you to get the job that you really, really wanted and that you're super happy with?
Yeah, I wasn't particularly good at saying from day one, that's the job I really, really wanted. It was kind of chance that it came up. Yeah, so I'd say for me, you have to count it from after my PhD. So yeah, the first job I took, I did really love, but it took me a year to get that first job after my PhD. So what did I do? I worked in a bank in the meantime, doing data loss prevention. Odd jobs. Yeah, so it probably took a year to find my first role like this one. And then it was only 3 months in between that one and the next one. So I'd say if we're going to say this is my dream job, which probably from being at university to now, it was about 2.5, 3 years after I finished my PhD to getting this job.
Well, that's good. I mean, in terms of, I suppose, timeframes, it's not that bad or scary. And I think it's saying to young people now as well, you could have 5 or 6 different jobs in your lifetime, because it's not, nowadays it's not so set that you have to have certain jobs. And I say this, gosh, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up, so that's fine. So you've got lots of different things to go through. If a young person was really quite encouraged by what you're saying, Catherine, and they were like, oh, okay, a lab, that sounds quite interesting, would there be any opportunities for them to maybe gain some work experience or anything coming in and volunteering or anything like that in a situation in a lab like yours?
Yeah, definitely. We have we have students every year. We can have, I think, we have sort of 15, 16-year-olds or maybe 18, 17, 18-year-olds different times. Yeah, definitely we can. We have them. Do it.
Fantastic.
It would really, really help. And then we always try to give you projects that are real ones. We want you to help with what we're doing at the time. So yeah,
gosh,
you should. I think even if you did a degree, then quite often my classmates would do summer projects in a research lab. So you can even keep doing that work experience as you're learning as well. It's really helpful. Yeah, getting
Wonderful.
practical experience is much more valuable than going to your lectures sometimes.
What a piece of advice there. You'll have to be like, don't worry, I got told by a doctor that I can just miss out my lecture and go. That's excellent. But you know what? That's actually really encouraging for our young people to think that they're like, cool, okay. So they can maybe just have a look online and just see if there's any opportunities. Or as you say, just email, and just if you don't ask, you don't get. That's fantastic. And how amazing would that be to think that they've been part of like a research drug project, to help people. Amazing, wonderful. Sort of final couple of questions for you here, because we could talk about this for ages. Is there any other advice for the young people listening out there that you think would be really helpful for them, to as they're thinking about what they want to do, as we've been sort of speaking about today, sort of to finish off, Catherine?
Yeah, well, I suppose for me, it was just about, it took me a while to settle down into what I love. But I think for our generation, your generation, we're going to be at work a long time. So don't worry about taking your time. You'll get there eventually. But also don't worry about what your friends are doing. If you're thinking about like you don't want to go to university and just get a job, or if you want to move country, or if you want to go to a different university. I think I was always quite like willfully different. Yeah, from England, but all my friends went to university like really close to home, and I was like, oh, I want to move away, I want to do my own thing. Just don't worry about what your friends are doing and just do what you really like. And I think for me, just if you can focus in on that, like what do I actually like doing, and just do more of that, you'll probably find something you can really get ahead with.
Excellent advice. Really, really good advice to finish on there. So wonderful. That's been so interesting to speak to you today, Catherine. As I say, I think I could chat for ages and get so many more questions coming in, but I'm afraid we don't have enough time for any more. So thank you. So just before we finish up, just a massive thank you again to Catherine. So I found that really, really interesting, and I hope everybody else did out there listening too. If you need any more advice, guidance, support, information, and all things career related, first of all, speak to your careers advisor at school. They'll be able to help you, but you can also have a look on the My World of Work website as well. So there's lots of job profiles there related to what Catherine's been speaking about, but also so many other job profiles. As Catherine said, it's not just science and biology and chemistry that would be in something like the Cancer Research Centre. There's loads of different other opportunities there. So there's plenty of tools that can help you sort of explore your strengths as well. Also, just to kind of highlight to you, with Scotland hosting COP26, the climate change conference here, please also have a look at the green careers page on the My World of Work site. So that'll give you a really good starting point for how current jobs are evolving to become more green, and they'll become ecologically beneficial for the Scottish economy. So that's myworldofwork.co.uk/green-careers. If you want to learn any more about the sectors and even how to get into them, so have a look at the apprenticeship website. So that's a fantastic one. So remember, I was speaking about those apprenticeships before, like the Scientific Technologies Foundation Apprenticeship, the modern one in life science and related industries, or even the data analytics one, these kind of things, all related to what we've been speaking about today. But again, so many other opportunities there for you. So that just leaves me to say a massive thank you again to you, Catherine. It's been really great for you having us here today. A wonderful thank you to you all who've joined us today. I hope you found that interesting, and it's kind of given you a couple of snippets of pathways to sort of think about. Take care, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll maybe see you on another session very soon. Thanks. Bye now.